Good evening. We want to do the approval of the minutes from July. Approval of the minutes from the Parks and Rec Board's meeting of Thursday, July 10th.
I'll move. Second.
It's been motioned and second. Any nays? All in favor? Aye. And we want to start off with, I thought we had someone here from that wanted to speak or something. I thought the lady that was here previously wanted to speak or something.
She was from Haverford Township, and she just had some feedback to provide us with regards to Hartford Park, which I can share later.
All right.
I figured I'd come up to the mic since
Parks and Rec.
figured our report was sort of next. Well, first of all, it's great to see everybody. It's been 3 months. It's hard to believe. It's been since July. And then in May and June, we were on the road at the RTCA. So hopefully everybody had a really good summer. Hopefully everybody had a restful summer. But I wanted to kind of just kick off the meeting a little bit and really highlight. I'm going to ask Ian to bring up the screen. I'm going to first start by talking about some of our department composition changes that we've had. We've had an interesting ride since April. I'm just showing a picture of our department staff as it was in August. We had 6 people, which was great. That's the most people we've ever had in our whole lifetime of being here. But we quickly lost Heather DeCanzio. I don't know if you all recall, but she did take another job and she has moved on. She spent 10 great years with our department. There's a lot of things that have her handprints all over them. I could go through a list of things a mile long. I mean, but just some of the highlights really is the cultivation of Radnor Day Camp every year and hiring the staff. For those of you who don't know, we do bring on 40, 50, 60 staff members, depending on the year, that join us with Radnor Day Camp. So it's a lot to bring together. It's also a big operation, something that runs over the course of the year, really, when it comes to the hiring, the planning, and everything that goes into it. She adapted a lot of new programs for us. She brought our Champions programming to life, which are programs that we have for kids with developmental differences. So she really made that a mainstay as part of a lot of the things that we do within our department. So many applications, and when I say that, I mean like there's some software applications we adapted to Radnor Day Camp, like Pickup Patrol, which helps us manage attendance. We have a employee application process that comes in through our online system on Granicus, where we manage a lot of the forms and things like that. So she was really behind setting that up. So not only was she very creative and technical, but she was also a very kind person within our department, made relationships with people very easily. So she's sorely missed. To give you some idea, at the end of day camp, we always have a big performance where the families come and they get an opportunity to see the kids do a dance routine, various dance routines at the camp. And there was a ceremony where all of the staff members were on the stage, and each one by one, came up on the stage and gave her a red rose. So it was very sentimental, it was very emotional, so really I'll flip to the next picture, which kind of shows her with some of the roses in her hand. She had a lot. We had to help her hold them because we had 57 staff members this year. So it was a lot of roses. There were a lot of tears, and we had some people from the past day camp come back and join us to say goodbye to her. But she is doing well, and she's getting some of her life back now with her family, a little bit of a less demanding job, so we certainly wish her well. In lieu of that, I want to welcome tonight Heather's replacement, who is Bakir Al-Tumbash. He's with us. He's going to be sitting over there beside me. Hopefully you'll get to see him at a lot more meetings, including tonight. And we're really excited about Bakir. So as much as we were very sad to lose Heather, I feel that right now we're in a very, very great situation now, bringing Bakir on board. He comes to us with not only an undergraduate degree in Parks and Recreation from Temple, which is my alma mater also, but a graduate degree as well, as I have as well. So we kind of share the Temple connection. That's not why we hired him. He was the best candidate for the job. Take my word for it. As a matter of fact, I think he endured probably close to 6 hours of interviews, all total. So we don't mess around here. And we're really excited about him. He came from Upper Gwinnett Township, where he served as a program assistant there, and was also at Middletown Township before that. So he's got a lot of great background, and I think once you guys get to know him, you're really gonna like him and be excited about the future. So welcome, Bakir. At some point, I'm gonna kick over some of the report to him. So from now on, he'll be coming to a lot of our meetings and giving some of the programming updates. So I mentioned the staff a little bit ago. Here's a picture of them. Let me see if I can get this into a different view, so it's a little larger. So this is our summer staff. We were really proud of them this summer. They managed 220 kids this year. We had also about 25 kids that had developmental differences that we hired specialized help for. So a lot of folks on our staff were specialized behavioral, had behavioral backgrounds, special education backgrounds, things of that nature to be able to manage the diversity that we have at the camp. And these guys have so much energy. A lot of folks have been returning for several years. As a matter of fact, our day camp director, who is Megan Weaver Horrocks, she's right here if you see my cursor. She actually owns Mainline Dance Company in downtown Wayne, and she's with us for 17 years this year. So we've been really excited to have her come back, and she just brings so much to the camp. I had mentioned the show that we do every year. She's been in charge of doing that. I know there have been past years where we've shown kind of montages from the show. I'm not sure if we have any of that queued up tonight, but I know a lot of times we try to get the Parks Board members out to see the show. It's great. The parents come. This year we ended up having it at Eastern University, which was a little bit of a last-minute change from Radnor Middle School, and it was a huge success. Our swimming director, who is Mary Beth Ryan, who I'm kind of putting the cursor on here, she's actually been with us for 11 years. So she had her 10-year tenure. Last year we celebrated her. She's been with us for 11 years and really has been amazing. We run the swimming program sort of in a mix of different places. We've been at the high school pool. This year we were at La Maison, which is now ACAC. But she does a fantastic job, and her son's actually an Olympic swimmer for Team Ireland, so just a little bit of a fast fact. He used to work for us also. And then AJ Nordone and Cooper Roy, who work for us, they had their 5-year anniversaries this year. And then we also have Cameron Kachansky, Kamaria Labu, and Emma and Jesse Pinto and Luke Tobin, who all are with their 4-year tenures with us. So a lot of young energy, a lot of passion, and under Megan's leadership has really been able to cultivate a team, and under Heather's leadership as well in facilitating it, and then of course having that handoff in June where it goes to the director. So I just wanted to highlight this group. At some point, Bakir's certainly going to be in charge of this hiring and coordinating, and I know he's definitely up for the task and also very excited about it to move forward. And then just also noteworthy is a lot of folks, I think we had a significant amount of returning staff from last year, but we also have a significant amount of Radnor residents who are on staff with us. Folks that, went to Radnor High School, graduated, went off to college, and have come back, and some that are teachers as well. So just a really great environment. Again, 220 kids was pretty significant this year in terms of the camp. So here was just a little bit about Bakir. Wanted to kind of feature some of his background. He's a Philadelphia sports enthusiast, so we won't hold it against him. At least I won't. Everybody else will be excited about it. I also wanted to take a minute and highlight Christina Rios, who is our new recreation assistant. We hired her, went through a process back in April when Natalie was going out on maternity leave. Tracy was out on maternity leave, so we needed to bring on board a recreation assistant, somebody who jumps in and can really manage all the daily phone calls, all the permit reservations that we have for fields, for picnic areas and all of that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And then she won the EAC's Eco-Friendly Award. She's a Radnor resident because of the beautification she has there at her home, as you could see some of the pictures. So I wanted to share that with everyone as well. So if you don't follow us on social media or see all of our posts, you don't necessarily get a chance to see all this stuff, but we try to put it out there as well. So we're really excited about the team. These are some of our social media posts that Christina has also been managing, so she makes a lot of great contributions daily to our, basically our marketing and our promotion, putting together creative content and lots of great things to celebrate stuff that's going on. So for instance, you know, we celebrated on July 18th Parks and Recreation Professionals Day. Yes, there is such a thing. We unfortunately have to work that day. We don't really get to celebrate it, but I guess it looks really good in pictures. And also lots of great things to celebrate the day camp, and hopefully, you know, folks get a chance to see a lot of this information. Tracy Kroom, also I just want to highlight her great work from this summer also, while I'm talking about everybody else. She leads our wizarding camp by developing the entire curriculum. So everything from the annual traditions of Quidditch and wand making and games to a little bit more creative things that are done on an annual basis with the camp, which actually takes place at Hilltop Preparatory School. Tracy's behind the development of that curriculum and running that program, overseeing the staff, which runs for 3 weeks. And it's a pretty intense program overall as well, with a whole lot of things going on. As you can see based on the pictures, more of a cerebral camp. You know, there's lots of engaging, there's chess, there's lots of strategy, trivia, things like that, and they have a really good time over there, as I mentioned, at Hilltop Preparatory School. So just kind of some of the other things that were successful for us this summer. We always have our annual U.S. Open bus trip. It's actually been running for 26 years, believe it or not. We used to take 2 buses. We're kind of down to 1 now, trying to get back to 2 because we usually have a pretty hefty wait list. So that's been really popular for us. And a gentleman by the name of David Broida, who's down here in this picture, he's the former Director of Parks and Recreation for Upper Marion Township, so he helps us by running the trip every year. He also has been one of our tennis instructors over the years, so when he retired from Upper Marion, he kind of jumped in to help us out there and also run lots of programming that we had available, particularly at Radnor Racket, which is a partnership that we have. So we're grateful for him for leading this trip. Switching gears a little bit, I wanted to talk about the September 20th Villanova Day of Service. We actually had 90+ Villanova students come out to the Willows Park on the western edge that borders the exit area where our Drawson property basically meets the Willows. And they planted 75 and donated 75 red cedar trees, which really led to a full day planning under the direction of Frank Paris, who's on the Shade Tree Committee. He helped kind of nudge this along and keep them on task with the planting throughout the day, as well as members of our Parks and Recreation Parks Department team. So here's just some pictures to highlight the day and the social media posts that we had out. So it was really successful. And the great thing is that area, the township, or the park, I should say, and the township, is starting to become covered in trees. So if you combine the spring tree planting that we had on behalf of the EAC that happened in April, along with Troop 284's Eagle Scout project, just in spring alone, we have close to 200 trees that were planted in that area. So that's very exciting and something that I definitely wanted to take a quick moment to highlight. So if you get a chance and you are at the Willows, when you drive along the exit drive, there's the hillside that goes up, where there's the old duck blind that's kind of embedded into the side of the hillside if you walk up over there and kind of look down over that hillside. For years, we cut that area. Seemed like a great place to reforest and blend in with trees. So we're well on our way to doing that and very excited to see that area now be reforested. Nothing has been planted in between them that I'm aware of, just the red cedars. The goal is to leave it so that it can forest, so that it doesn't have to be mowed anymore. And we had originally had our fire pit over there, Clark, if you'll remember from our Great American Backyard Campout days. We recently had a scout perform a project to move that over to another area within the park in the large field, so it's more proximate to where the campout actually takes place. So jumping into October, I just want to highlight the Fall Harvest and Great Pumpkin Patch event that actually just happened this past Sunday. It was a huge success in its 13 years, and it was very hot. It's probably the hottest October day that I can ever remember. It was probably close to 85 degrees at the peak of the day, but it certainly didn't stop people from coming out to enjoy the day, because I think we estimated we had at least 3,000 people in attendance. So it's a lot of fun. Folks do pre-register for large pumpkins, very, very big pumpkins, very heavy and big pumpkins. And the rest of the pumpkins are there, for the taking. And a lot of folks come out to jump on the backs of the tractors that we have. We have tractors like hay bale tractors that our Public Works Department staff are driving on a short route, but a fun route nonetheless, that goes up behind the Willows Mansion, and then allows folks to walk down into Skunk Hollow, where they can pick up their pumpkins from sort of a man-made patch that we put together. We have lots of vendors that come out, businesses, new businesses, organizations. We have the Art Center, the library. So many folks come out. It's really it's a nice festive day where there's lots of activities taking place. We have corn maze and things like that happening, inflatable corn maze, of course. And we had a Velcro wall, a bull ride, just a lot of fun for everybody, and a really good time. So there's some pictures from the event, and of course a lot of the staff enjoy coming out to the event to work that day. This is just a time-lapse video we put together from the pumpkin patch. I figured I'd show it since we recorded it that day, kind of show the area of Skunk Hollow. So I know a lot of folks don't get out to that area very often and give you a chance to see where we actually put the pumpkins. We did not have a drone this year, but we have in past years. Yep, we had it set up. So we want to thank we definitely want to thank our sponsors because it does help us purchase all those pumpkins that you just saw. Mainline Health has been with us for at least 10 of the 13 years, making a significant contribution, as well as Harmelin Media, who makes a significant contribution to a lot of our programs that we do throughout the year, mostly community events, but really enjoy those partnerships and being able to make these great events possible. The Radnor Run is coming up on October 26th, so if you like to run, 5 miles, if you like to run 5 miles, that's a little bit more of a difficult course, this might be the event for you. But we also have a 1 mile run that takes place, as well as a 2 mile walk. So, there's a lot of options there, depending on what you're interested in. And after 48 years of the Radnor Run, this is going to be the last year of it, especially with the American Lung Association. So we started the event, the Township, under our very first Park and Rec director, Jim Dittmar, in 1977. And the first year it was successful. I think there was close to 100 runners. And the decision was to find a beneficiary so that there could be a donation made with all the proceeds that came in. And the American Lung Association, which at the time was, I guess, a regional-based, a lung association based out of Delaware County, became the beneficiary. So essentially, they kind of came in and infiltrated the event and started to take over bigger parts of it and started more grandiose corporate fundraising. And of course, the township was here for support, logistics, staffing, but it really emerged into a very, very big event. So it quickly emerged to almost 1,000 participants in some of the peak years. They made a decision, unfortunately, that the amount of resources they put towards it versus the amount of money that's fundraised for the event, they cut the event. So they will no longer be involved. I know a lot of folks have been asking, like, what's going to happen to it? It's a long tenured tradition. You know, is it going to survive? Is something going to happen? We are having those conversations now. There's some organizations that are interested in potentially taking it over in some capacity, and we're also evaluating some internal ways that that might be possible. Might not happen in 2026, but could definitely make its return, you know, maybe by 2027. So I'll keep you posted as that potentially evolves.
Who's in charge of that as far as moving on? In other words, talking to different nonprofits or whatever. Are you in charge of that?
Yes.
I'd like to talk to you.
Okay.
I have some people that might be interested.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll set that up. Sure. Yeah, so what I've tried to explain to folks is that what goes into running the Radnor Run, no pun intended, is a lot. There's a lot that goes in terms of registration, team development, fundraising. It is a very colossal event. We have two different committees, one for logistics, one's for planning, so there's a lot there. So about 2/3, actually more than 2/3, probably close to 85% of the time that's spent there is not township staff. Like we support, like right now, we're in the thick of getting ready to support race day with managing the course, having course marshals, having police, having Mid-Atlantic Radio that comes in and helps us in certain key intersections because it is a share the road race. And it also crosses over Conestoga Road, which if you think about crossing over Conestoga Road, even on a Sunday morning or on a Sunday morning, can definitely have its drawbacks. So it requires a lot that goes into it. And then, you know, we have a sponsorship reception and awards, and there's a lot of pieces. So I'd be excited to talk about what there could be in the future. And it doesn't have to necessarily look like what it's looked like for, you know, the last several decades. If you think it's warm in here, I can put the air conditioning on. Or we could put the air on. Everybody's good? Okay. So that's the Radnor Run, and then coming up, we'll be having our 12th annual Trick or Treat here at the Township Building on October 30th. This is a great event for children, preschool children, and as you can see, we have Chick-fil-A coming with their cow, mascot, and we also have Radnor Memorial Library participating with us, Wayne Art Center. We have Soccer Shots, which is one of our preschool program delivery vendors. And a host of folks will be here to engage folks as they come in and come through the Township Building to collect treats. There's some pictures from last year. And then, of course, Santa's delivery, believe it or not, is already upon us. We're going to start taking gifts on November 3rd. I know it feels like we just had it. It's interesting how cyclical our job can become, but here we are. So on November 3rd, we'll start taking gifts. It's a very strategic, synchronized process that leads up, of course, to the big day on December 7th. So folks have that information. We have our second annual OWL Encounter, which will take place on Friday, November 14th. This is a great night hike opportunity throughout the Willows, where we have Indian Run Educational, Environmental and Education Center come out and basically call for owls. And interestingly, if you look down here in this picture, at the end of the hike last year, they spied an owl. This isn't clip art. And they had the opportunity to hear the owl, which was fascinating for everybody who was in attendance. On December 6th will be the annual L's for the Shelves 5K run. That's led by Radnor Memorial Library. There's also a Philly Friendship Walk that's going to be happening at Radnor Elementary School and Radnor Memorial Park, offered by the Philly Friendship Circle. That's on November 2nd. So there's a lot of things that are happening coming up this fall. And with that, I'm going to kick some of the programming updates over to Bakir so he can share some of the things that have been taking place and some of the things that are on the horizon there. So I'm going to let you come up to the mic if you want, or yeah, you probably want to do it from here.
Well, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. very excited to be a part of Radnor Township. Tammy wasn't joking around with her interview process. It was definitely long, but it made me feel, it showed me initially what the qualities are of this township and what's expected. And during my interview process, I was keeping my job search confidential, and really, the only person I could confide in was the chief of police over at Upper Gwinnett. And I spoke to him, and I told him where I'm applying, and he said, well, you know, I hate to see you go, but that's a great township to go to. So I understood coming in here that there would be a lot of expectations, but with that comes reward in completing those. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to work hard, and I'm really excited to be under the leadership of Tammy. I'm also grateful that I was here for 2 weeks, where I was able, while Heather was here, so I was able to learn from her, and it was a great experience to see how she cultivated all her relationships, how she carried herself with professionalism. And again, when I was talking to Heather about how she conducted herself and how she spoke to these program vendors and all of these events that she attended, she said a lot of that stuff she had learned from Tammy. So I'm just really excited to be here and grow. So thank you all for having me. And then as far as getting into programming, Radnor Day Camp. So for me, I was able to actually come to a day of Radnor Day Camp. So my first official day was the 4th of August, and I came here on August 1st to see how Radnor Day Camp ran a little bit. And it's very, very structured. So as Tammy was mentioning, there's 57 employees we had for this year, a lot of special needs staff. We had 16. And there's a lot of different coordinators in terms of how the camps run. We have an aquatics coordinator, a creative crafts coordinator, special needs coordinator, spirits and events coordinator, sports and games coordinator, and trips and travel coordinator. So to me, what makes this camp unique is that, yes, there's a lot of fun and there's a lot of outdoor activities, a lot of sport activities, but there is a structure to it. And having the leadership with Megan and Mainline Dance Company is a big part of that. So I'm excited to take this challenge on and see what I can do for it next year. So here are some photos of the camp from this past year, and shortly I'll play a collage for you guys to see a summary of the camp. So some of the trips that we, Radnor Day Camp went to this past summer included Topgolf, Devon Lanes, Urban Air, and my favorite, the Eagle Stadium Tour. So that was really cool. So, and also part of the curriculum, there were some special events which included the camp performance show, an art show, end of camp carnival and celebration. So again, just there's a lot of activities jam-packed into camp. It's not just a run-of-the-mill camp. So I will go ahead and play this collage for you guys. And another thing I wanted to highlight as well for Radnor Day Camp is the resources that the township offers for this camp. The fire department being there, the police department being there, offering, you know, their precious time, bringing the dogs and all that stuff. It really goes to show how much the township cares about the community, and having them available as a resource to entertain the kids and show them what other parts of Radnor there are aside from just programming in the camp. And also the Public Works Department as well for helping us with various things, moving all the equipment we have, because we have a lot of equipment. So it's such a huge help to have the support of all the other facets of the township. So here's a little bit of the feedback we got from Radnor Day Camp, and we're always looking for ways to improve it, whether it's just different programming or different trips. So here's just a little bit of that. Now, to get into some of the programming we did over the summer, World Cup Sports Academy, our longest tenured partner going into this year. It's the 21st year, so they offer soccer for us. They also offer our biggest program, the Survivor Nature and Hiking Camp, which includes a little bit of arts and crafts, but really its main focus is hiking throughout the parks. And you know, we really value the relationship with them. They've been a long, outstanding partner with us. And some stuff that's going on right now, we have fall skateboarding with Ramp Up. Ramp Up, this is their second year of programming with us. The owner, Mike Dixon, he has decades of skateboarding. He's been doing it since he was a kid. They're on a trajectory of growing their company. In 2023, they started with 90 skaters. In 2024, they have over 250 total. And then in 2025, they're over 400. So we're really excited about the program they offer. And here are some pictures that actually were just taken last weekend. So really excited about them. Hiking Hounds. So Hiking Hounds, I would describe them as a program that has sort of the old camp feel. Less a focus on sports and games, but more of a focus on outdoor adventures. Andy Hood, who's the owner of Hiking Hounds, is very dedicated into the outdoor space. He holds a bachelor's degree in forestry. He's a certified Pennsylvania fishing guide, wilderness first responder, Leave No Trace Level 2 instructor. They have various hikes that they do with us, and each of them have a different theme. So, for example, one of the themes is ice cream. So at the end, they actually make ice cream, which is pretty cool and unique. The introduction to fishing has been very successful. This class, the fishing equipment's all provided. They focus on being aware of your surroundings while fishing, and also being safe and respectful while fishing, and also understanding some local species. So Soccer Shots, they've been in partnership with the township for 12 years, offering preschool soccer and children under 8. They have a unique leadership style, whereas a lot of their leadership for their soccer program comes from the UK and England. So for soccer specifically, it is a unique experience for a U.S. player, because obviously in England they're very successful, so that's where the U.S. is trying to go. We have a lot of hopes for growing soccer in general in the States, especially with the World Cup coming over next year in 2026. So a lot to look forward to there. And we just started Pamela Rende tennis lessons. So Pamela Rende, this was a short turnaround for us, but the registration was very good and good numbers. She's a certified professional tennis registrar. She was a former head coach for Arcadia University, men's and women's, and she does her lessons over at the Radnor Racket Club. She does adult lessons, 4 through 13 and 13 through 17. Universal Rackets, so they're a pretty big provider. not just for us, but for their surrounding towns. They service over 15 locations. They have over 1,000 players that they service every year. And we like to brag that they got their start here at Radnor. So the owner, Tyler, he always says he's grateful for us because that's where he got his start from. And also, they have a social media following of over 100,000. So they're a very strong provider for us, and they're also willing to do clinics with us. So we're trying to bring up our Champions Clinic. So we're in the process now of getting volunteers and registrants for our Champions Pickleball Clinic, which we did last year. So more to come on that next meeting. Skyhawks, they are a franchise that's been around since 1979. Their focus is more of niche sports. So as you can see, we have golf, we got t-ball, and also the multi-sports, which includes baseball, basketball, soccer, and flag football. And again, this was another short turnaround for us as far as registration and putting the marketing out, but numbers were very good. They were very easy to work with. And also now we have our 2 adult organized pickups for men's pickup basketball and also the indoor open play pickleball. So we have a contact from the Township, Ricky Forster, who's helps be our liaison for that. And they have a nice facility over there at the rack to play some pickup basketball. Although I don't think they're going to have much participation for tonight because of all the Philly sports game going on tonight, but we'll see. And the nice thing about the indoor open play for pickleball is that there is a website they can go onto to register playtime. It's called Playtime Scheduler, where they can see how many people are coming, and that way they're not just going there and not everyone's showing up. We've had success in the past running this program, and again, pickleball is just one of those sports that's exploded. So it's a good program for us. So just to wrap everything up, I just, again, wanted to express my gratitude. Thankful to be here, and thanks again.
I just wanted to follow up with a comment about camp. My kids did several of the Radnor camps this summer. My daughter did the Radnor Day Camp. She was one of the special needs campers, and this was her first actual camp experience, so I only let her go half day. But every day she asked to go. She said, why can't I go the whole day? Because there's only 2 campers there that went half day, and her and one other person out of the 200 or so. Because I was so worried that she wouldn't be able to, at a camp of 200 kids, I thought, this is going to be a disaster for her. But it was so structured and so well run that she had no problem. She loved it. It was great. My son did the skateboarding camp, which he loved. The person who ran it, Mike, has more patience than any human I've ever encountered. All these kids on wheels, in every possible direction. He was extremely patient. And then my kids also did the Willows camp that I guess is through the Willows and 4-H, maybe not affiliated with the township, but they like that as well. So it was really, we're really fortunate to have such affordable camp options in the township. So it was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bakir. Great job. And Jenna, thank you so much for the feedback. We really appreciate it. That just inspires us to keep doing what we're doing and do it better.
Any other comments? If not, Board of Commissioners?
I can give the report for the commissioners.
Sure.
I think Commissioner Riley is actually away. I think he's on vacation, if I'm not mistaken. So a couple things the commissioners been looking at the last meeting on September 29th. They had ordinance 2025-08 come their way. I gave you guys a copy of it, so it should be in your packets. It's relative to the use of electric scooters and electric bikes, which I know a lot of communities have been addressing this. I believe there was a couple incidents here locally recently that have spurred some of this legislation along, and I think some of it too just common sense, because I don't know about you guys, but I know when I'm out on the road, I'm seeing a lot of motorized bikes and a lot of motorized scooters riding on the streets. But importantly for this does set some guidelines and regulation with regards to those on the Radnor Trail and the trail system, which I think is a positive step as well. So even though we already have a prohibition on motorized vehicles, I think it's good to see this be called out. One thing I will say is there was a lot of discussion that occurred on this at the September 29th meeting. It was tabled, so it has not been introduced yet. Given it's an ordinance, it would be up for introduction, then it would move towards adoption. I think the commissioners, the township manager, the police department are still evaluating this and massaging it. But I wanted to make you all aware of it in case you want to tune in. It is not on Monday night's agenda. The Board of Commissioners do meet on Monday the 13th. So it is not back on their agenda. It may be back on the agenda at the end of October. But just something I wanted you to be aware of, especially since it impacts our parks. Also, Monday night on the 13th, our township manager and finance department will be giving an update draft of the budget. So that'll be on early in the meeting on the presentation end. I know later on our agenda we get to capital budget, and we kind of talk about that a little bit and kind of discuss where we are there. As of right now, there's no capital budget in at least the scenario that looks like it might be likely, but I don't want to misspeak because I know we have a few different scenarios that are going to be presented as options before the board. You know, some that, one that would be just sort of maintaining the operations where they are, another one where, you know, we're evaluating some steps of a capital budget, some looking to correct certain issues we have right now with regards to the business privilege taxes, which do fund a large part of our operation, are very volatile year after year. I think we're trying to move away from that scenario and get to more where, you know, we have a millage increase dedicated to be able to fund the township. And then another scenario, of course, that has a quite a big tax increase that would give us maybe some start or semblance of a capital budget. But well, I know we'll get to this later in the meeting, but, you know, we still have the Park Impact Fund. We're still working off of grants. We're still working off of the general obligation bond, so I don't want to sound doom and gloom about a capital budget. But as of right now, it would be sort of the third scenario that would be presented, and you can watch that Monday night. The only other thing on the agenda is actually 7 pieces of legislation that our department has. So I know Bakir spoke a lot about various organizations that we work with, like Universal Rackets, Ramp Up, Soccer Shots. So when we have a contract like that exceeds a certain dollar amount to where the contractor is going to make a certain, you know, over a certain amount of money, there's a threshold there that we have to have formally approved by the commissioners. So there's 7 vendors that'll actually be on the agenda, and this happens every year. We just have 7 this year. I think typically it's around 5. So it shows that there is a demand and increase in programming that's been taking place, and we'll be excited to keep up with that in 2026. So that would conclude the report that I would have under the commissioners as far as items that they've been addressing or will be addressing.
Okay, I guess Shade Tree Committee.
I don't have an update right now.
Okay. And moving right along, new business.
Okay. Tonight, I had added the item of the Fenimore Woods Pond under new business. I felt compelled to do this after having sort of segments of presentations over the last couple years, especially last summer when we really started talking about this, when we had a significant buildup of algae across the pond. It obviously became a problem again this year. In the last year and a half, I've been trying to study ways that we can improve the pond and try and understand what's going on. So I wanted to put this on the agenda to have a discussion tonight. That's actually from the 2024 presentation. This is from tonight. Those slides weren't hidden for whatever reason. In any case, I wanted to show a great picture of the pond, not a bad picture of the pond. I didn't want to start off showing all the algae. I wanted to show it, looking nice and fresh and calm and filled with nature as it should be, as it has been over the years. And obviously in more recent years, we've seen a decline. And really what it comes down to is maintenance. And, I want to kind of step through some of those reasons and also some of the options there might be on the horizon so that we can start to really develop short, mid, and long-term planning for the pond. Seeing that, there's a lot of work going on, obviously, at Fenimore right now. The park is getting a lot of attention. I wanted to bring this up tonight because there could be possibly on the horizon a need or a true reasoning to do this if we're able to get some grants for the project and maybe couple those with some additional work that can get done. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but the pond is very big. It's 2.2 acres. It's hard to believe that it's that massive, but it is. And it was built in the late 1800s as part of the property. And then, as you guys probably know, we purchased it as a park in 1973. In 51 years, I don't think it's ever had any level of maintenance that has occurred. I know in my 26 years of being here, I'm not aware of any subsurface algae removal, sedimentation removal, or anything like that has happened. So what we've seen, and based on some of the studies that we've had done, is that the problem of not only the subsurface algae and sedimentation that's collecting on the bottom of the pond is becoming exacerbated, but the content of phosphorus and nitrogen is also escalating. So there's this whole nutrient imbalance that's occurring. There's a lack of oxygen that's occurring because as the buildup on the subsurface of the pond, as that grows and that swells, that leaves less water, basically, for nature and wildlife. And basically, it's a system that's just fueling a problem. So the more that there's subsurface vegetation that's collecting at the pond, the more it's producing nitrogen and phosphorus. And then the more the oxygen in the pond has to work to address that, there's less oxygen available. So it's called eutrophication. It's very scientific, and I'm sure there's a lot of environmentalists and folks that could come in and give you a dissertation on it, but I think you get the idea of what's happening. And then add in the fact that there's not a whole lot of water infiltration coming into the pond on a regular basis. I know that we've had a lack of rain. We have an adjacent weir that's not necessarily feeding the pond the way it should be to keep the water moving. I know a lot of people have come to me and they've said, well, why don't we just add fountains? Like, we don't understand. Just put some fountains in it and it'll fix it. And I've actually met with several companies. I've had them come out, and the problem with the fountains, which is great after we make some changes to it, is that they're going to clog up. They're going to basically, be fed all of the sediment that's floating around and that's in the bottom of the pond. And right now, there's not a whole lot of depth, which I'll show you in a minute based on the bathymetric studies that we have done, which I think I've shown you guys before, but I'll kind of get to those slides. So there's a lot of things that are happening. Fountains will be great on the horizon. Bless you. And then we also have perimeter of the pond issue. We don't have a lot of vegetation like you see in this picture here. A lot of this has diminished. So with a healthy buffer, a healthy, strong vegetative buffer, it can collect a lot of things before they get to the pond that can help the situation. So I think there's a lot of pieces here that we're going to have to basically string together over the course of what might be a couple years. It depends on, again, money, funding, all of that, the fun discussions we're always having. So maintenance is really, it's vitally needed. We did the pond skimming last year. We did it this year. The difference was last year, it showed a great change right away. And the issue was this year, the problem just reoccurred again. So I think what that's telling us is, again, it's stagnant, it's not receiving enough infiltration and water and oxygenation. Also, the problem is just festering. So we're not seeing a whole lot of changes. It's just worsening, essentially. So on the horizon, there's going to have to be a plan. This is just a picture, actually, thanks to Michael Kearney, who, as you probably remember, attended a lot of our Fenimore Woods planning meetings. He had shared this picture in one of his presentations, so I wanted to give him credit for it, but that was the pond a long time ago. So this is an aerial that was shown, or that was shot last year in July. You could see how significant the buildup was. So I'll just kind of buzz through these. I know I've shared these with you guys before. This is just a little bit about that eutrophication process that I was talking about, where, we have this increase in nitrogen, phosphorus coming from a myriad of different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be coming off the properties. It could be coming from the adjacent weir when it does make its way into the pond. And if we have periods of high rain, all of that is infiltrating right into that space, as you see where the weir comes in off of Shimoni. And overall, it's just, again, less oxygen available for the wildlife in the pond. And then it leads to, of course, the algae blooms, which is basically everything you just saw as the big sheet of green that was over the pond last year. And of course, again, this year is this fibrous algae. And we've had this tested, so it's not dangerous or toxic in any way, but it's a nuisance. And over time, as more of it is there, it's basically, creating dark spots and shutting off life in the pond. I mean, fortunately, we haven't had a fish kill. But I have to worry if we're upon that, just given some of the pieces we've evaluated here. As you can see in this picture, this is just kind of showing you where we started to plant some trees off of Shimoni. We did install fencing. Public Works worked on this in the last month and a half. They had installed that. But at some point, I think it's going to be imperative to really create a sound buffer in this area and evaluate a little bit more heavily what kind of runoff might be coming off of Shimoni. Right now, this is curbed where you can't see it in front of the guardrail right there. So there is a significant amount of water that's going into the inlet. But we have to understand how much of that is it impacting the pond, and is it continuing to exacerbate the problem that we know is there? This was just an image of the Truxer amphibious vehicle that was removing the algae. Some of these pictures from last year. So this is the bathymetric study that I was referring to that we had done last year that gave us a little bit of an idea of like where the deepest depths are. So if you look at this side of the pond, which is to the east, so eastern side, and then on this side, obviously towards the west, they couldn't really even study this half of the pond because it's just too shallow. It's just too mucky, basically. It's filled with too much organic sedimentation, so they really weren't allowed to move vehicles through there easily, and essentially use they do a radar system where they put basically a sonar system into the pond to evaluate like the depth, essentially. So that's how we know that this is about 8 feet. One thing we also know as well, in 2017, we had a study done when we were evaluating the park project, and this was at 10.5 feet then. So it's becoming more of a problem. So I have to imagine if we turn around and we do this again next year, there's probably good information to tell us that we're going to be losing more depth as well. So this is just another image to kind of show those depths. So there's a lot of different things we can do. I think I talked to you guys a couple, probably in July. We talked about hydro raking, which essentially is using a machine that's going to go in and grab all the loose stuff that's there. It doesn't require a permit. We don't have to go through any state agencies. It's something that could be deployed right away if we wanted to, if we thought it would be effective, and cost effective, of course, is something we would want to look at. So the hydro rake is going to go down and just basically pull up all of this loose aquatic vegetation that's swimming around in there. The only thing is more reading that I've done on this is it stirs up the nitrogen and it stirs up the phosphorus, so it kind of makes it's not going to grab all that. It's going to leave some of that in there because that's a nutrient. And at that point, there's a treatment that would have to occur. There's different treatments you could put in to kind of neutralize the nitrogen and neutralize the phosphorus. So hydro raking still isn't it's not really a solution necessarily, because I don't know how much of it they're going to get. And that's, again, information I need to learn more about, because, of course, every company wants to sell me their services. But what's the right service for Fenimore Woods? Mechanical harvesting is a little bit different. Digging down with a little bit of a more aggressive machine and actually cutting, like chopping the vegetation where it's growing. The only downside of that is there are some permitting requirements, so it could require us to go through state agencies, can be time consuming, but obviously if it's effective, it's worth it. And then also, it's gonna grow back. So just cutting it, it's still gonna seed. It's gonna reseed, and it's just gonna grow back. So a little bit more research is gonna be needed on that. It could be something that could be done in sections too, so it's not like we have to do the entire pond. We could do this in sections. And then, of course, I'm gonna fast forward because my slides were out of order, I apologize. The dredging is the big thing. I think you've heard us talk about that before. Very expensive, requires lots of permitting, requires sometimes draining the pond, so that means all the wildlife has to be taken out of it, and could take a couple years to even do a process like this if we were doing the entire pond. So I'm not going to profess to know what the right solution is to address that piece. More research is going to be needed, more guidance is going to be needed. I will say that the agencies I've met with, I get sometimes varied responses on what could work and doesn't work. So I'm still trying to sort through, like, what's the most trustworthy source to address Fenimore Woods, and then put together that, as I had mentioned, short, mid, and long-term plan. So, but dredging, as you could see, would be quite a big ordeal. And that's basically restoring the depths that maybe once were there in the 1880s to get it back to where, once water is re-infiltrated, you have the ability to have a lot of water and a lot of space. And then you can control the depths. So, if we wanted, it to be 12 feet deep, we could make it 12 feet deep. We could make it 8 feet deep, whatever, we wanted to establish in there. If we wanted to change the contours and things like that. And again, it could be selective too in terms of the space. So just, if I back up, so I talked a little bit about vegetative buffers. I think that, again, it's a part of the process. Obviously, wouldn't be something we would do right now. I wouldn't go out and establish a vegetative buffer without figuring out what we're going to do in the subsurface, because I think that's really important first. And then I talked a little bit about the aeration, which is essentially the fountains. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. It doesn't have to be a above surface fountain where you actually see the pretty, fountain spewing the water everywhere. You can do immersive mixers and things like that that are much more aggressive. And essentially what they're doing is they're providing oxygen and aeration through the aeration methodology. So I wanted to bring it up tonight. There's a lot of things that we can do that we need to really start, I think, to think about. I think that on the horizon of the park project, there could be an opportunity where we might have some money to spend at the park. And when I say that, I'm hopeful, because we had just submitted a $700,000 grant to the RACP through the state of Pennsylvania, which came with legislative and senator backing. So fingers crossed, if we end up getting a grant for $700,000 for the project, is it possible that, the rest of the project is going to need all that? Maybe. We talk about overages and change orders and stuff like that, when it comes to the stable and when it comes to, everything else that we're doing there. So obviously we want to get the core of the project done, but let's say, we do get $700,000 and we do have a couple $100,000 left over. Do we want to spend it on the pond? I think at some point, we want to evaluate that, because I think it definitely makes sense to spend it at Fenimore, because that's what we've asked the money to be, pointed towards. So I wanted to address it today and just kind of make you guys all aware that it's on my mind. I know it's on residents' minds, because I hear from them, and it is something that, we're taking seriously and want to try and, at least when we're in a position to fund something, want to try and understand what that something really is, and, is it phased? Is it something that we would carry out in a, 1, 2, 3, 4-year plan, if in fact we get that opportunity. So that's the pond, and then I was just going to give you guys an update also on the stable, because abatement took place with the asbestos removal. All of that has been sent to the state and recorded, and we've gotten reports and everything back, so we're clear there. All of the environmental hazards have been removed from the facility, which is great, big step. And then we've started demolition. So as you can see here, there's a lot of internal wood structures, there's a lot of paneling, there's a lot of ductwork, there's a lot of things that are going to be gutted and will continue to be gutted. And we're on a pace. It's hard to obviously predict timelines on this, because every time I feel like we do that, we go over on every project. So, we'll say if we're in a position, come next summer to be open, I think that would be a great and fantastic thing. I know there's still a couple of other pieces to the project. So if we're lucky, we'll be looking at this in June, or something that looks like this which would be fantastic. And then we also have the parking lot pieces, which I'm just taking these slides from my June of 2024 presentation. I'm so lost in my Fenimore years, which isn't like me, but I know it's been a long time coming, since 2019, at least in this leg of the project. But this is from that presentation that I gave to the Board of Commissioners when we went for approval and authorization, obviously, to renovate the stable, which obviously we were successful, because we're in the middle of it right now. So we know we have parking lot rehabilitation, which is a lot of the engineering pieces we're managing on the in-house, which normally are out at a consultant level, just as we were trying to save lots of money for this project, which we are continuing to do that. So we have inspectors that is typically provided through a third-party firm that would be overseeing all the demolition work and everything happening at the stable. We're now handling a lot of that internally. We actually have a rising engineer under Steve Norsini, who is one of our coordinator level engineers, and he's taking on a lot of this work, which is giving him experience to be able to see the construction side of it, which has been a positive. So he's out there every day looking at some of these things. So we're saving significant amount of money there, which is very helpful, because as you guys remember through this process, we're basically on nickels and dimes to get this over the finish line. So that's my update on Fenimore, which was, I think I was able to dive into a little bit of old business there as well. And now, unless anybody has any questions, I was going to dive into Odoricio next. As soon as I can get a cursor.
Tam, I do have one quick question. If that pond was ever dredged, would it meet modern standards for, is there a dam associated with that as well?
There's no dam.
There's no earth?
There's feeding into the pond. There's the adjacent weir, which is coming from the Shimoni Road culvert, which runs parallel to the pond. So the pond is its own body, its own structure. And then we have a valve that was recently replaced as part of the weir, so that when we have high rains, heavy levels of water and infiltration, we can turn the valve and point it into the pond. Now, with that brings everything that's in that water. That's stormwater. So that's, runoff from fertilizer, from your home, from, everything that's coming off of lawns and things like that. So it's helping because it's creating infiltration and bringing water through, but it's also 2.2 acres. How much is it really bringing water through that area? And then with it, what is it carrying?
The eastern ponds don't have the same issue, or not as much?
So I'm actually in touch with Eastern. We've been having some back and forth conversations because I'm trying to understand exactly what their maintenance plan looks like. But I believe they have more, first of all, the ponds are smaller, and they have more infiltration and outflow.
I think they have more outflow, yeah.
So it's keeping everything moving. It's kind of like the willows. So and the Willows is definitely another candidate in the future. I want to keep an eye on that because I did see a significant amount of algae buildup there as well this summer, which concerned me. It seems like it's alleviated now, being at the park on Sunday. It didn't look as bad, but you definitely have there's flow. There's more positive flow coming through the Willows Pond, but it also has a significant amount of sediment buildup in there too. Any other questions? All right, we can talk about it more in the future. Ian, I'm gonna kick over to Odoriceo now. Let's see if I can. All right, so looking at Odoriceo, I think this is probably my, I don't know, 12th presentation on Odoriceo. We've had an active year this year we had a concept plan revealed, we had a starting point, we had lots of healthy discussion. I feel like we're getting somewhere. We spent May and June, as I had mentioned, at the RTCA, so we had very focused public meetings with the neighbors, which I think were positive and generated some solid feedback. Ideally, we want to get to a point where we can start really honing into some of the areas that we've been discussing. So I'm not going to go too far back into the past. Just know that, this was a process we started in February of 2022. And I remember sitting in that first meeting and having people there, I think it was at the RTCA, and folks were like, well, there's no way it's going to take us 3 years to get this project done. And here we are, which it's just a slow-moving train. But one thing I will say is that having the grant to fund the conceptual design has been fantastic because it's really enabled us to keep the project moving, and we actually have a tangible now to work off of. So these are all our meetings, and this is where we are today in October, hoping to get to the commissioners soon with a final concept plan that they can approve, and hopefully we can start to evaluate funding. So just a reminder on that, I think in addition to the grant, this board back in 2022 wanted to use any of the remaining park impact funds to fund this project. And that is definitely something that I will continue to carry on. It doesn't mean that there might be some emergency project that comes up and we have no capital funding and we may have to dip into that growing park impact fund, but I will say that park impact fund is getting healthy and robust. I think it's in excess of $700,000 now, maybe even more, which is a great resource for us to have. But obviously we want to be very strategic about how we go about spending that money. So I think you'll remember this list. This was the list of goals and objectives that you all had approved relative to Fenimore Woods. And I wanted to bring this up because I'd really like to have a discussion relative to Odoriceo Park in terms of some of these items. And obviously number one is the big item, is the preservation of the trees. So as we've started to look deeper into the project, and more specifically some of the parking lots, we know there's trees that could be impacted. Maybe even in the playground area too, there could be some impacts to trees. So I'd really like to understand the board's thoughts on some of those goals and objectives towards this project. Are we okay with impacting trees? Do we not want to impact trees? I think it's important to have some direction on that, or at least some sediments. I know we don't have a lot of people here tonight, fortunately, so I'd be really interested in hearing more on that. I have a suspicion on what the thought process might be to that, especially depending on the type of tree, right? The caliper tree, is it a heritage tree? What's the size? And get an understanding there. We know we want to renovate the bathrooms. I think that's a given. We've kind of established that. I don't know if we necessarily want to do it right in place where it is, because I think we've talked about some variable locations, so I think that's something to take a little closer look at. Same way with the playground. I know we heard expanding the playground, maybe shifting the playground, so I think we need to talk a little bit more on that. And then, of course, we know accessibility is key. We definitely want to create a route to where you can get from one side of the park to the next, at least from the West Wayne parking lot to the basketball court. Is a very important feature to be able to have somebody to be able to navigate the park from an ADA standpoint. So the slide here I brought up just to kind of highlight those aspects that we looked at and things that we heard a lot about. So we originally had the stage down here on the hillside, so just for, this is Fairview. The basketball court is actually over in this area. And the stage, I think we kind of heard, let's remove it. If I'm not mistaken, we didn't feel that that was a location where it was necessary. The tiered seating, I think there was some concerns there overall, just about safety, sled riding, and then is it needed? Can people just sit on the hillside? And in doing that, you know, obviously making up those areas in another portion of the park, perhaps creating the pavilion space so that it has an adjacent area for a band to set up. Could it have an overhang that could configure so that it's maybe elevated in some way so that a band could potentially set up if we, you know, wanted to have music at the park? One of the other suggestions I was also making, and I have some pictures, was, you know, do we want to maybe have the bathroom have a seating area like a pavilion, but then also maybe have a gazebo, and maybe that's where the band could set up and where the band could play from, somewhere up in this space. So perhaps it could be small, it could be multi-use, it could be a place for kids to play also. We could maybe design it in a way so that it has, you know, multi-use and it's not just a band type space. There was talk about possibly moving the playground, making it larger than what it is today, which is doable, and possibly moving it further towards West Wayne Avenue. So there was some discussion about that, and we can get into the composition of the playground later, because I know that could be a whole meeting with the public in and of itself. But just general location. Obviously, on our end, some of the things we have to keep in mind is the grading. How is the water and the infiltration here going to be fixed? Because we know we have an exacerbated problem in this whole area with water runoff that is basically causing the tree roots on the hillside to become exposed. We know that the current stairs that are there are completely undercut because the water and the erosion is so bad. So those are things that are going to have to be controlled no matter what we do in this area. The bike trails and the wooded area, I think that's something also too we determined with the residents who did come out and shared feedback was not something that we wanted to see become developed, especially with any type of pedestrian paths or bike paths. So I think that's definitely off the table. And then the parking was another big area. If we look at Fairview, right now the way you're looking at that and how that was designed was to have a one-way in, one-way out. Again, I think what we've heard is that we want to keep it how it is and keep it so that it has two-way traffic flow coming off of Fairview, coming off of Church. And then also, combined with that, I think we also heard that there is a concern because the residents are parking in the park a lot. But I kind of want to bring that up for discussion because we could, and we can get into the details of it, but if we expand the parking lot there, which we can maybe do it so we can add maybe another 5 to 7 spaces. I don't think it's going to be anything significant. But if we do, are we inviting more people to come and park there? And then with that, I have to ask, does the increased parking help the RTCA? Does it help Second Baptist Church? Because one of the things I've observed in being over there for a lot of events in the last year to 2 years, being at the church, being there when there's been, during Unity, there's an RTCA rental that's going on. It seems like there is a lot of parking needs in that area. So I just want to bring these up for discussion points because that impacts maybe what we ultimately want to do with the parking lot. So we can create 90-degree parking here on both sides, versus just having the 45-degree angled parking, which I could show you more on that later. So the parking is going to require, I think that's like our hang-up point right now, really, in a lot of ways, is how do we want to change that? Because I wanted to throw out another idea too, and I have a slide to show you an aerial, but is it possible to, well, either A, extend this lot, which there is a slope, We know we have a slope that comes down towards this area, but do we maybe want to continue, removing the lot we have here now and making another sort of sub-lot right here along West Wayne, and then kind of leave Fairview the way it is? And again, I'm just spitballing because I want to get ideas on the table to see where we potentially want to go. Since we're on parking, why don't we let's stay there. So right now, this is what the parking lot looks like today. You have approximately 16 spots here. You can park about 6 here. I understand people do park in the grass, but when they park in the grass, do they park there out of convenience, or do they park there because the lot over off of the third base line is full? I've kind of gotten a mix of answers there. So I'm not sure if maybe it's just, again, it's convenience because you just walk right over here and you hit the bleachers or hit the bench and then you can watch the game. So I think that's an important piece, but we do have the ability to expand this lot. I do want to recommend and stick with what we did on the plan in making this a one-way in, one-way out flow, because I do think that we've seen a positive from that at Philip Home. We've seen a positive from that at Clemacrone when we did that. It's safer. It does allow us to capture more parking because you have the 45-degree angle parking, so it will help us, with capacity. So this is the way it was designed on the plan, as you could see. So right now, the one-way in is coming from, I guess what would be the northern side, and this would be from the southern side, exiting. So if we go back, so we really only went from 22 to 25 spots. So it's not a lot. But then if we expand the lot and widen it, there's tree impacts. And so that's why I'm talking about trees too. So I know I'm kind of all over the place, but like if we really want to expand this lot, there will be an impact to some of the trees. Mm-hmm. Here?
Yeah, right there. Did you say there was 6? What is that?
Well, we estimated you could park about 6 cars along here.
Because normally, years ago it was still
90-degree parking? I didn't think it was now. I don't think it is. I don't think it's defined. Because once you have a car in here, I don't think you have a lane wide enough. Let's put it this way, if it was and there was 90-degree ability to park here, it's not really code because technically the cars would struggle to back out and basically back into where another vehicle would be. So we could take a look at that.
Now you also have that first driveway as you're coming up West Wayne.
Mm.
First driveway there, right there.
Yes.
Down there, they park also, so is that going to be designated as a parking area?
The one that exists today,
Yeah.
the thought was to remove that. So let me see if I can find it. Right there. Yeah, so in the plan, the conceptual plan that you all looked at, this was going to be removed, and we were going to try to capture the parking on West Wayne as well as Fairview that is needed for the park. And or, like I said, we could consider maybe a smaller lot up here so that you could come in and have, basically an area to park here. Because with the pavilion / bathroom, the playground, and then the possibility of, again, the walkways, maybe a gazebo, we may have to lose this unless we feel we want to keep this. There's 3 parking lots at this park. It just seems like we should consolidate into 2 if we can. And use, even if it's just turned to green space, it would help because, again, we have the erosion issue too, because water is just pouring off this parking lot. So even if this was redone as a parking lot, it has to be redone. It has to be completely regraded, re-leveled. The pitch has to be different, has to be turned to a different angle, because right now it's all funneling down into the park, and these were where the steps are.
And just to give you an idea, when they used to have the Legion games
Mm-hmm. I think that's why it's a parking lot today, because I think it's the same asphalt maybe that had been there. Okay.
And of course, you had a few cars just right in between there too, on West Wayne.
Mhm.
But, I've always said that we could draw it in a little bit, going the bottom part of that parking lot, and draw it back a little bit towards towards West Wayne.
This moving, meaning moving towards this way. Oh, this way. You want to move the parking lot that way.
Towards maybe that end point, towards West Wayne a little bit, and making that a pavilion area. Or just moving the playground down toward, closer to the parking lot, and then having that rest area right next side, next door to the pavilion area. And then you can have concerts there too.
You mean in here?
Well, shrinking that, come down a little bit, the other way, right? That's the yellow line. Now, when you get to the yellow line, and you push it back a little bit, and then, yeah, then bring the playground up closer to that, that parking area.
At Fairview.
There, yeah. You could have that as the rest area, plus the pavilion, plus the playground area, right in the middle.
Let me just pull up a different image. I want to, maybe this is a better one. Maybe this is a better view. So Fairview parking, Comfort Station right now.
Okay, yeah, where that rest station is right there. Now, if you take that playground area and move that down towards the parking area,
Here.
going towards West Wayne.
Okay.
Just try to come to the parking lot. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Come on down, right there, at the end of that.
Okay. Playground.
Now, so we move the playground area down to there. And then you have that rest area, then you have that open space for pavilion type thing for the concerts or whatever.
Where the playground is right now.
Playground is right now. You've got the whole open space
Mhm.
right there where you could have picnics,
Mhm.
barbecues, plus have a band right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then just move the playground closer to the parking lot with a fence right there, you know, a fence right there at the end of that parking lot to make sure that nothing goes inside the pavilion. Sort of like we're currently, we have a fence there by the parking lot so that nothing goes over there.
Yes.
And that would, because it's more or less than sort of like a leisure park where you just come in and it's not a lot of activities happening there outside of the baseball games. There's a bed, you have big picnic areas there and barbecues, whatever. And then have a rest area there and everything's there together. Just a suggestion.
Okay. So if we go back, I want to just jump right back to the plan. I might have to dig around a little bit for this, sorry. Okay, so, because this was where we went originally, based on our discussions when we had the design. So obviously, so there's a lot going on this slide. Anything that's in black is what was designed, the red is existing. If I have to zoom in on anything, I can. And then this is just a red box I put around it to highlight it. All of these bigger trees that look like they're drawn in, those are all new trees. Anything that's smaller here, like these, are existing. So just to kind of define the plan a little bit. So this was where we were. So we removed the parking asphalt. See, asphalt parking, that's what we just looked at. And then, the concrete that's there. And then existing bathhouse, which is the existing comfort station that's there currently. And so we had moved the pavilion here. This was where we had landed with that. So we're saying now we would move that. And so this was actually a gazebo too that we had dropped in like one of the third versions or whatever it was. Just a placeholder with a hexagonal structure. So we would take these and move these further this way. And then put the playground on the other side, near the parking lot. Okay, so keep it on the side that it is now, okay. Yes. I'm not going to remove those trees. Believe me, I know those trees are ailing, but I think it would be a tough plan to remove the trees, given what we just experienced with Fenimore. Understandable. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. So a couple things. Well, first of all, like with whatever playground structure we end up endeavoring, I think we need to consider sunshades. Like, I think that's definitely a given, even if it's not covering the entire space, but something a la Enki Park. I think that's a given with our playground development moving forward, which is a standard that we set. I'm just kind of spitballing here. Is there a concern for the playground being further up with foul balls? I'm just bringing it up. I know it's just could be. I mean, this can be a heavy foul ball territory.
That's why a lot of people don't park there.
Right.
Let me back up or I don't know, start over or bring me up to date. We've been talking about, and way before I got on this board, about odor OCO and all the things we could do and should do, and it seems to me that we as a board should be able to come up with our recommendations, and that's all they really are, to the Board of Commissioners. But we have to agree, and I think all these ideas are great, but we have to, somebody here, not somebody here, but our board has to come up with a plan, a recommendation that we can present to the board. And the idea of we keep back and forth of trees, no trees, parking lot here, parking lot there. It seems to me maybe we should go back to the basics, and you had that one slide of the things that they've voted on that we want to. Those are our goals and objectives, I think. You had the four items. Yeah, and maybe just sort of focus in on here and say, hey, this is what we voted on, this is what we're going to do. Preservation of current integrity of the park amenities for priority of focus of not removing trees. All right, I mean, you've already declared we're not going to remove trees. That's fine. But then we move on to, okay, renovate the stable building. Okay, in place, we're doing that, right? And are we renovating the stable building?
We are renovating the bathroom, yes, i.e. the stable building.
In place as bath, okay.
But not necessarily in place. Like, so this
Okay,
was a different
but
scenario
we-
at Fenimore, but.
Okay, but we're making progress, right? Okay. it seems to me that if we use this as our template and just go by this and say, okay, here's our recommendation, and present it to the board, because, you know, that's not an easy process.
Well, I think what we're trying to get is, we're trying to come back with a plan
Yeah.
that this board, we feel good about, and the community feels good about. That's our goal.
Right.
Is to have that, and again, it will be a concept, right? Because it
Yep.
doesn't necessarily mean it's all gonna work in the stormwater management and everything that we're trying to achieve, but at least it becomes a concept then where we can turn around and be happy, like, you know, the stage isn't there, it's a
Right.
gazebo, or it's an annex off of a bathroom. The parking is one way in, one way out over here, and approximately this big in size and this impactful to the park, versus over here, we leave it alone, or we just renovate it. So I think we do have to look at that level of detail,
Right.
so we can turn around and develop an order of magnitude on what it's gonna cost, which ultimately
Right.
then, you know, once we can figure that out, the concept plan then would be moved to the commissioners
Yeah.
for presentation. You know, they'd look at this, and I don't wanna say it's final format, but
Right.
it's final conceptual format, and then give authorization to whatever the next steps would be, whether that's, you know, having the engineers and the designers now carry it on to the next step, or fund it,
Yeah.
borrow,
Whatever.
allocate, whatever. I mean, I think that's where we ultimately want to get to. That was one of our goals of where to be right now, and I realize the timeline, you know, has gotten away from us. It happens.
Right.
Because it's not always an easy, you know, trail to get there, essentially. But I think ultimately, like, we do want to get to that point for the board. Because I would like to know, like, right now, let's just say the board has an appetite to borrow money for 2026 for whatever improvements. And I don't want to speak for them because I don't know where they are in that process. But if there is an opportunity to borrow or allocate in some way, like, I think we want to get Odoriccio Park done. Like, I think this has been, you know, something that had been in the pipeline for many, many years. And that's not even just the last 3 that we've been discussing it. I mean, it's been riding along in our capital budget since I got here. And that was in 1999. So, and every park has gotten its renovation, right? The Lapone, Beauconnor, Clemacrone, now Fenimore, like, you know, Odoriccio is definitely in that pipeline, and that's what we were trying to achieve.
Would
And
it be
would be-
possible for us as a board to come up with our recommendation as soon, I mean, tonight? I mean, there was a lot of ideas here, and I'm supportive, but I think we as a board should come up with, here's what we would like to recommend. Is that possible? That's my question.
Timmy, I can't help but kind of look at this and having knowledge of the history of how we even got to the configuration that we're at as a park. And it feels like we're trying to preserve kind of like the structure that's there, and it really was a waif. Like, the lower parking lot area used to be the basketball courts. It wasn't the plan for it to be a parking lot area. It waifted into that, right? And then, like, it just feels like we just kind of went with whatever the situation brought to us. And this opportunity is for us to think about how to configure it so that it makes sense. Like, nobody has 3 different parking lots that I know of, probably other than the Willows, right? But we waifed it into 3 different parking lots by virtue of history, not as a plan. So we moved the basketball courts up the hill, and now we have what used to be basketball courts that we now made a parking lot, but it wasn't really the original plan. So this is an opportunity for us. I kind of like what he's saying, to just be like, yo, let's put this together in a succinct way. Maybe we do something really radical, like put the playground up in that little parking area that's right up, by the basketball courts, and then have parking, you know what I mean, be one segment, and then another, like everything just kind of be like compartmentalized. And I know this is probably like, Monday morning quarterback, but I'm just saying, I just feel like we're trying to plug in stuff instead of plan. This is our opportunity to do something, really big. I feel like the playground, I forget what the name of it is, but right there in Rosemont, like they did a plan. They and they did stuff.
Right, and
Get what
I
I'm
think that's
saying?
where we started too. So I think we started with a blank canvas within the area in which we knew that was opportunistic to us. So when we started out, we knew, other than the baseball field, we have a blank canvas. And this is just sort of how we've emerged. It doesn't
Right.
mean we can't scrap what we have right now. We absolutely can. We're not dealing with a big area. In fact, you're just here to here, essentially. And you can even like cut it off right there, because I don't know that we're going to do anything on that hillside. So I think we still have that latitude. I think we still have that latitude within the budget. As far as like what we have by way of the grant, we've been able to save a lot of money by not having TJ come here and make all these presentations. Because in the past, when we did Clemacrone, that's what happened. And so we've saved that, because you got me now. So, we can go back to him and have him move these things again and add wherever we want. I don't think that's a problem. So I want to take that fresh look if we need to now.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like we're still trying to, you know what I mean, make the best of what there is, and this is an opportunity. I don't know if the money will support it, but it feels like the right time to like say, the pavilion, the playground, the basketball courts, boom, the parking that supports the whole playground or whatever, water runoff, trees, it's an opportunity to kind of look at it, because otherwise we're just like moving dots, from side to side and trying to figure out, are we going to do parking? Are we going to do trees? Are we going to do,
I think we just need to make some decisions. It's like, Tammy, I think you're trying to trying to direct us into making some decisions here. And, because right now, and I feel squirmish about making decisions. We don't have much public participation here. I know, like, me personally, I thought that parking lot down along the third baseline, there's no reason to keep it, but then we had the public meeting and everyone's saying that during soccer games, it's filled to the brim. We need to, I was on the board when we were with Clemacrone, and we had a blank canvas. We had a very organized group of residents who came up and said, this is what we wanted. This group have been great at giving us great feedback, but it's just been a different tenor to things. So, we kind of need to make some decisions. Personally, I thought that initially that's a good idea to have the playground down where that parking lot is. Based on the foul ball issue, I don't think that you raised, I don't think that's a good idea. I do think that we should, because of the parking issue that the residents spoke about, and it's from the residents right across the street, it's a bigger issue than I appreciated. Because I can tell you during middle school baseball games 3 years ago, there was nobody in that third base parking lot. But apparently on the weekends, it's problematic. We need to put as many I think, along the first baseline and as much up near the basketball court. I know the residents brought up the issue about the one-way and how, I forget how we came up with it, was that they were against the one-way parking, because of the in and out there. Now, I know they have that little sliver of a street there, but obviously the diagonal parking spaces provides more parking, but there is parking right across the street there, down by the trail entrance there. There is parking right there. So, those are all things to think about. I personally would recommend that we put as many parking spaces as we can up along the first baseline. I would also, I think we have to keep it as two-way up near the basketball courts based on the recommendations of the residents. I think that the pavilion-type area similar to like they have over at Tennell would work.
Sorry, I'm skipping through. I'm just
Yeah,
going to
no.
the examples.
I'm just
So
gonna
upper
say-
right-hand
Blur, what's
corner,
this?
upper right-hand corner is Tennell, obviously minus the picnic tables, two of which, fit under there. So that's why, size-wise, are we looking at something a little bigger than that or same size?
I would suggest maybe something along, a little bigger to the upper left.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would fill the need for the bands at the music festival, and also provide sort of the area there for any other public use, as well as just general weekend use during sporting events.
I would concur, and then I think a more sizable structure like that one would accommodate the music needs. I can't speak for that group that advocates for it, but it seems to be central. And also parking along Wayne Avenue in particular, I know that there was a footprint there, but I think it should be optimized more than what it was kind of designed.
Yeah.
I think for the water drainage, in particular, that large basketball court area is problematic. It's going to be hard to leave that there and really work with the stormwater. That is going to be challenging. But I think if the Wayne Avenue lot was expanded a little bit more, it could probably give the parking that's needed.
I mean, we just need to start making some decisions and throw them out there. Public likes them, public hates them, it gets adjusted,
So if I may, just one thing about the West Wayne lot, I call it the West Wayne Avenue lot. In expanding that, I think ultimately we want to bring the address to the park to that point also. So I think that ties to that as a synergy, because right now the address is 418 Fairview, and everybody drives through Highland Avenue. They drive down Fairview Road, Church Road, and that's, if they're coming obviously from out of town. So I think that ties to that point.
And that upper corner, it seems somewhat of a dead zone in terms of activity, meaning the west,
Like here.
there. It becomes a not as footprinted area. I would think that would be where you could eat into for parking.
What if we have to take a tree down for it? Actually, I did look at the street view before I came in here. I think it depends
Gotta
on the
move
tree.
the
We can
rock.
always design a parking lot around a tree, but
Make it electric bike parking area.
You gotta move the rock.
It's a dense area, but I have to, it's just,
I think when I looked at the street view, though, I think that tree already had came down. I think we had removed the large tree that was in there a while back, so
we just
we
look
can
to
work.
optimize as much
can
parking in
work with
that
that.
area as well. It keeps the cars in one spot. I think having the playground area as far away from parking lots and cars is going to be important. With the parking lot and the playground to be right next to each other. But there's only so much space to work with, it's just, you can move some things around, but you've got, you can move some things left and right, but it just ultimately, it's what engineers have to think too. We may want to put it somewhere, but is it going to be doable? Yeah, and
Right.
Is the location of the bathrooms currently, the utilities and whatnot, is that a factor in where that's placed?
Well, they would just have to be extended.
So it would be.
So if we moved from here,
it
to,
would
let's
not
say
be a
here,
limiting-
right?
A limiting feature or cost feature to move it, 100
it's part of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a benefit at that point to renovate things too. So basically what we're saying is we basically want to flip the restroom and the playground.
I think that's what your ask was, to flip it.
Because it would make sense that type of a that type of a bathroom pavilion structure, people could sit there and watch the games too. So it offers seating to
See, well-
overlook the ball field.
Yeah,
And a concession stand for them. I mean, right? No, I
We
wasn't,
could if you're interested in, if we want that at this park.
I don't know. if
I
there's-
thought, the structure was big enough. I'm sorry. I
No,
wasn't
that's
adding
okay.
more.
It would just be a matter of, maybe Little League would want that.
Right.
And then they would operate that, or
Like the
Legion.
pavilion, a place to sit, and possibly a concession
Sure.
stand, for games.
I don't see any issue with
bathrooms.
flipping those, as long as there's not a, a structural issue or a cost issue with moving that. I see
It
this
probably
plan has a gazebo there. I just don't know how much that's kind of needed in the setting of a larger pavilion.
No, and I would say, if we go back to the pavilion we looked at,
Right.
we could easily, a night of a concert, which has been 1-2 nights a year, we could easily have the tables moved and put out in the park so people could sit at them, and then have the band set up there. And here, we don't have to rent tents, they have a shelter.
Power, lighting.
We would make sure that it's adequate for
permanency,
power,
Multiple usage,
yes. So,
bathrooms.
Yeah.
and bathrooms.
Like a
ADA,
multi-purpose area
Like
for
it's-
everybody.
Like versus the other area where people are gonna, for the band, it's, how are you gonna get people there that have disabilities, like, I think this one offers access. So,
And then so
win.
we'll eliminate a gazebo idea, which I think is good.
Multi-purpose.
And I think that helps.
it just packs that space and.
It does, and it's more infrastructure, it's more impervious surface, and it will add to the problem we're trying to alleviate. It will. So I think that's a great option.
Yeah, I think the flip, if they could do it, and just add more parking on the west side would be,
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll see in a remodel of the Fairview lot if there's a way to achieve the 90-degree parking on both sides. Like, I don't
Taking that
think it's,
building
yeah, I
down
don't think it's
to that
possible, and I'll show you why.
with the
So,
bathroom gone. I don't know.
If you take a look at this slide, in order to achieve that, as you know, there's a steep slope right off the parking lot here, like within a foot to 3 feet. So you would have to expand this by, I think when we looked at it, it was at least 3 feet, and then we had to come like 10 or 11 feet in this direction in order to have 90-degree parking. We can take a look at that and see if it's feasible. I didn't necessarily want to chew up all this grass. But if we think we can to achieve the 90-degree parking, like, that's what I will rely on the engineers to like really dig into and look at. There is a sewer line that comes through here. What's that?
Versus angled,
Oh.
angled parking, or,
Well, we can't do the angled because it would have to be one way. It would have to be one-way flow to achieve the 45-degree angle.
Is the sewer line in the grass?
There is
or it
yes, the sewer line runs right through here.
Oh, yeah, you're not gonna be able to.
We still could. It's still doable. Well, I did have that conversation. I had it with
And then
Steve Norsini as well as our
that-
engineers on this
that
on this
That's
project.
right by Fairview and extended over top of where the pavilion is?
Extend the parking.
Yeah.
We could put handicap parking in here.
Flipped it, right? If we flip the pavilion thing like he just suggested, I don't want.
No, I think that's a good no, it's a good idea. So let me just find the right slide.
well, it could buy spaces, and then if you
And
put the
then
handicap.
extend the parking a little bit further down.
Into the
to where
park.
the pavilion used to be, or
Yes.
is now, and just put it deeper in so that you're making that Fairview parking area a little bit bigger.
Mhm.
You could add.
It's
you could
doable.
add, spaces there.
Well, here's the thing, even if we could achieve the handicap parking on that side to the right.
Otherwise, that handicap parking is gonna eat up.
It
the parking
does.
lot. So
Yep, and as it has
gives
on
you
the
those
design.
Spots.
And then you could pave going down by, I guess, third base, if you will, to be able to go to the pavilion, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to go to the,
And it gives you nice ADA access to there, I would think.
now, I don't know what amenities we're leaving out, so, you know, that people want to see, but
I don't think there were, not to get too off track, but I don't think there were any other than, more furnishings like picnic tables, benches, things like that. So
so a nice-sized pavilion would do that.
yes, and I think that you could even pepper some along the walkway as well. I think that's doable. I don't think anybody was looking for a skate park. I know we talked about the spray ground, but I think that we're off that now. So I think that there is the ability to capture the walkway and capture some benches and green space. I think the green space is going to be really quality to, again, the ground infiltration and, controlling the erosion better. Yeah, that's in the design. I chopped these up. I have the big one in here too. I can put it up that shows the whole thing. But this was essentially designed with the walking path, which is where we landed. And that can be obviously reconfigured, in and around the restroom space, the pavilion space, and then on into the playground, towards the playground. And then we can also see if we can increase the square footage of the playground, which I know was, again, another thing that sounded like it came out of the meeting. And of course, it would be an inclusive playground, probably with, we'll probably look at commercial-based equipment. It didn't sound like the fitness playground or the ninja playground was really, I didn't get a lot of feedback about that. I would say that if there are ways to capture some nature-based play in and throughout the park, we can try and achieve that. Maybe it's in and amongst the walkway area. I think maybe we could get creative there so that there are maybe some like little garden spaces or sand pits or things like that if we think, that's
Still
important.
have the ridge that is around the basketball court.
Yes.
That you could make a nature space, because that is all nature. You know what I mean? Like, it's all trees and whatever right there. So if there's like a needs for like a nature center or what have you, it could be right there. Because it is. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, the basketball court sits here, and all of this is nothing but nature. So if you wanted to still have like a nature area, that seems like a.
Do you mean over here or
down.
here?
Yeah, right there.
Down in here. Okay,
Somewhere
that's
in
what I
there.
thought. Like where the boulders are now is,
Huh?
like where the boulders are located now, down from them? The boulders
I don't
are
know, like
situated?
somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's not going to be a big, gigantic,
Mhm.
arboretum or whatever, but just something to just say, like, we did think about nature.
I think so, yeah. I think we can capture some of it in the walkway area too, where we're gonna have a lot of tree plantings and, vegetation, landscaping, those kinds of things. I think we could get creative with that.
There are a ton of trees in that park.
And we plan on planting a lot more too as part of the project. Wherever we can.
What would be the next step here? I mean, I think we're making progress.
We are.
And as I say, I think the biggest thing is to see if we can make decisions. Do you think we could come up with a plan that we could recommend and we could vote on next meeting or something?
I can definitely take everything you're giving me right now and go back and put another concept plan together. The consultants that we're working with work very quickly, so I feel pretty confident that although November's meeting, of course I say that, and it's November 6th, it's like a week early.
Oh, well.
That's my fault.
Oh,
Because it's November 6th, I'm pretty sure. So it is a week early, so we'll see
Right.
each other soon. But I feel pretty confident I can come back and I can show you an updated plan, just like you're seeing here with all the changes that we're
With the
talking
changes
about.
that we talked about.
It
Well,
seems like
Conceptually.
It seems like we're close. It's just bigger parking and flipping
Just looking
pavilion
to see
and
where the big
playground.
plan is.
You know,
I
it's-
don't have
It's
it.
not like it's
Never
a
mind.
complete redo. It's just hear what we've heard so far and edit it and get into the final product.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape. I do have one other thing. So basically, you'll see a revised version, which would have been the original version we looked at in March. So you'll see this as a revision to everything that we talked about, which will take into consideration, all the things, obviously, all this stuff will be moved out of here.
Are the dugouts still on?
That's what I wanted to go back to. I wanted to kind of jump back to that, so I wanted to go to the very specific slide I had on that. So this was another area we looked at putting basically a large seating structure over the dugout built into the hillside off of West Wayne Avenue, the first base side, obviously. Is that something we think we still want to go with? Do we want to keep the bleachers? Do we want to keep the benches. Obviously, we have a significant amount of benches that wrap, around the entire first base and third base lines. And from a conceptual standpoint, just to give you an idea, so these are the dugouts that we have at Warren Philippone. So they'd be similar to this, but we would design them so that they are built with a block structure around them, so that they would essentially act as a retaining wall in the hillside, which is something we're going to need to do to again enhance the bank stabilization. And then if I jump back out, hold on. So we were looking at something really, it was kind of like this. I don't know if you've ever been to Devon Prep. If you've been to Devon Prep and you've seen the seating that's over the back of the backstop, not to that degree, because they have actual stadium seating that's built into the hillside like this. It's not concrete based, but essentially the thought process is something like this would be built into that hillside above the dugout that I had just shown you, which will be filled in with block into the hillside. Is it necessary? Is it needed?
I mean, personally, I think it's nice. I mean, if you keep this, from what I saw again with baseball games, I assume with soccer, everyone's down on the field anyway, so they're not relying on in-hill seating. There's sufficient seating there for the baseball games. I know, like, when you had I don't know what you were thinking is with out down left field line, when you had the stage up there was some seating sort of built in there. It looked kind of subtle. I think if you're going to do anything like this, the more subtle into the hill, the better, just because like this actually, what you're showing up right now on the screen might be a little bit much, but just as subtle into the building into the hill as possible, that would be my suggestion.
This is what we were looking at, the tiered seating.
Like something even just along those lines, just to sort of, have it be into the field. I haven't been to a baseball game in 3 years, but when I was there, some people are bringing chairs, people are sitting on the benches. That's where I like to sit. Some people are walking around. So I didn't see like an overriding need for seating. I think that what you have right here would look neat, but I don't think it's necessary, but would be nice.
Yeah, I get the less elaborate. I just don't see anything big and heavy and overly complicated there.
Yeah.
I think that if you had seating though, that was adequate, more people would use it.
Oh, no doubt.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Like, I think that you can't really gauge it based on what they do because it's not there.
I don't disagree with you. My only thought is I think sort of one of the things I like about the park is it's minimal in sort of like,
I mean, I see a lot more use of the park with like games in like the middle school and just, not just baseball,
Yep.
but other sports activities.
Yeah, no.
And generally, sports activities brings parents, grandparents, you know what I mean? And you make do with what's there. You obviously can't sit in the hillside if there's no seats, but if there were seats, you know what I mean?
You had a photo before, a concept of one that looked like a minor league park. That's way outside where,
The
I'm
grass
just,
thing here.
no. she had
No,
another
it
one.
was
It's just-
more like what I was referencing at Devon,
like,
at
if you're
Devon
on the
Prep,
site,
this.
This right here.
That is like kind of not
Sort of.
where I'm at. It's just too big and too heavy.
Too stadium-like,
Yeah, it's not the park, it's
Nope.
just,
This is a park with a great baseball field.
yeah.
and a lot of green space.
So I think as much as we can keep to that theme, that's what I would humbly recommend.
I'm there too.
Minimalist approach, I think that was where we were with Fenimore, so I have to agree with you. Okay, so we'll move that as well, and take that out. I think we're in good shape then. I think this is enough to come back to the board with, again, a revised plan that we can take a look at in November. And then if there's things we need to tweak, we can tweak it. But I think it puts us in a position to start really evaluating, okay, like, is it feasible? How can we make it feasible? And then tweak, because there'll be a back and forth. This is, this kind of goes on, as you guys know, just in the years of doing this, and then try and drill into what the cost is going to be. And it's certainly possible that if the Board of Commissioners do make funding decisions, they may not make those until even early 2026. It's very possible that that could be a subsequent decision, especially if it involves any level of borrowing, because it's not necessarily something they have to make parallel with the budget, other than the fact that if there is a tie to the real estate in terms of, the borrowing and what the cost of the money is, to basically put that in place. And we just don't know how that process is going to go yet. I think maybe we'll get a little bit of a temperature on it Monday night. Okay.
The only other comment on it, I did like the idea for those older individuals or people with limitations being able to watch from the top. I didn't know if there was that where the parking lot is, where you could just come off and kind of overlook to see what was going on.
There's benches right there.
Yeah, like there.
Yeah, I think it's essential to keep it.
Just to keep the benches and maybe make it so you can continue to get to that with ease, and not be able to walk down the hill.
And there's bleachers right here, too, yeah.
They're ADA compliant already, aren't they?
There's no pathway to them, but they are flush to the ground.
Yeah, just to keep that in place, because it's important for people who are visiting. A lot of people stay at the top, I think, and don't make their way down the hill.
And accessibility will be a key theme. That's definitely a goal. They are. They might be in a little bit better shape. I know some of them along the third baseline are in pretty bad shape. In fact, we'll look at some ways to well them so that we can stabilize them. And if the trees are in good shape, we'll try and preserve them in different ways that could be
And
incorporated into the
Could
project.
those bleachers move relatively for parking, as we talked about?
These are firm. We would have to remove them and move them.
But they could be in play to move?
Yes.
'Cause that's.
Yes, because I think we purchased those in 2014.
Yeah. They just seem primed to move if you needed space there, so.
Okay.
In years past, that's where you see a lot of folding chairs, like right around that elbow right there. Yeah.
So is our next meeting November 6th? And you think you will be able to come up with a plan, a new plan, that we might be able to move forward?
I believe so, yes. I'll get on the consultants right away to start putting it together. It's not enormous change, but some of the engineering background pieces may have to be evaluated a little bit with the parking expansion. But conceptually, we can have a new version to look at. Okay, so Ian, I think you can cut the screens. The only thing I wanted to mention was that I didn't get a chance to in my report was Unity in our Community Day was an amazing success in August.
The Unity and Community Day was another great success. Tammy took her normal position where she was absent last year, right? Yeah, but she was back this year, and it was different atmosphere knowing that she was just there on the premises, I'll say it that way. And it was great. People had all the way from the cooking this time to the events, to the drum line of the 76ers coming down as well. everything was great, and it wasn't as hot as the year before. But they missed the dunking tank. So, but yeah, it was a great success, and I'd like to say thank you to you and your staff and everybody that helped out with that as well. So it was a great time had by all.
Thank you, and I appreciate everything that you did too, and cooking, and just being everywhere, and you know, being up there and supporting the event, and just being part of everything, and rallying, you know, all the organizations and the neighbors. So I appreciate your leadership as well.
It was definitely a good time.
It was definitely one of my favorite events of the year.
Well, you can see because everybody's in order, and it just comes down, and it's, if you haven't been, it's something to behold, just to see the community come together. So
Definitely.
thank you once again.
You're welcome. So the next thing on the agenda was just capital budget. I think we've kind of covered that in a roundabout way. After that was just trail projects, so unless anybody has any specific questions, everything's sort of status quo with the projects, moving along with the Radnor Trail extension, of course, the Darby Paley Trail, all those are just kind of slow moving right now, all lacking funding, as we've discussed. So unless you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer those, and that just really takes us to Parks Board Steward Program, if anybody has any feedback about any of the parks they steward throughout the year.
Would I be rude to make a motion that we adjourn?
Not at all.
Well, I make a motion that we adjourn, and
I second.
Second in motion. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Who's up?